until you've patched all the holes in your process, throwing more money is just wasting it.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
a really interesting example my mentor gave me a couple years ago. It's like you have a bucket of water, it has
Mhm.
a bunch of holes in it. If you keep filling up that bucket of water and water's going to keep flowing out, you're never going to fill to the top.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what we've been talking about. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Elevated Trade Secrets podcast, the podcast for home service and trade business owners who are serious about building something real. I'm your host, Jared Tangier, CEO of Elevated HVAC Marketing. And today I've got Michael from North Edge Marketing joining me. Let's get into it. So, Michael, tell me a little bit about your background. How did you get to where you are? Start shortly after you were born until yesterday.
Sure, yeah. So growing up, I come from a Croatian household for any of your viewers that are European, we grew up traditional European family. My family is immigrants. They came over here. So, I always went down like the traditional route. Like I had to do good in school, had to get good grades. I played a lot of sports growing up, played a lot of soccer. I participated a lot in Croatian folklore. For those, again, that are familiar with the culture, you guys will know what that is. It's just a bunch of like Croatian dancing, and it's just a culture. It's a cultural thing. But anyway, I grew up, I went through high school, then ended up going to university for engineering, which is, not fun at all.
Where'd you go?
McMaster.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a Canadian university, so, it is what it is. Engineering. I've always been good at like math, numbers, and that sort of stuff. So everyone was like, "You need to go into engineering. It's gonna be good for you because you love numbers and math and everything." Anyway, ended up doing that. Found out that I didn't really enjoy much of it as I thought I did. I love science and math and everything. I find it interesting, but the career path, I just didn't find that it would be the right thing for me. So then I ended up meeting Matteo. You met Matteo. Fortunately, he couldn't come today. He's a little bit camera shy and whatnot. Nah, I'm just playing. Yeah, I met Matteo. He was in the HVAC field already, so he already knew the industry. He's part of the ins and outs. Worked with a huge private equity firm of about 26 locations across Canada, and each location is doing roughly between, I would say, 5 to 30 mil in revenue. So they definitely have a lot of their systems down. They know how to market, how to have a proper sales process, run a proper operation. So we've been shadowing that company for a really long time, and that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today to show you guys everything that we've seen that works in the industry that private equity companies are running and how they actually grow to these massive numbers.
So how does an engineering background apply to HVAC
Well, that's
outside
the
of
funny thing.
mechanical engineering?
Yeah, no, that's the funny thing. It doesn't directly apply, but the one thing that I've learned really growing up, like academically strong, is the education system isn't really there to teach you what you're going to be using every single day in life. So, for example, in math, like you're not going to be using half the stuff you learn, but the important skill that you do learn in academia is how to problem solve, how to critically think, and how to solve problems. It teaches you how to look at a problem, see what you're given, and you need to find a way to approach it with what you're given and come up with solutions. So I would say it definitely helped being able to go through that process because I learned a lot how to properly think.
Yeah, for sure. So what's your role at North Edge?
Me and Mateo were both co-owners, so
Mhm.
we just do a bunch of everything. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And what expertise do you bring?
The expertise that I bring, I would say, since I come from a more technical background, I know how all the automations and everything needs to be set up on the back end, so all the technical side. So that's where I focus mainly more on like the operations and the technical side of things.
Awesome, awesome. So one thing a challenge we face at Elevated is, when things aren't going well, when our clients aren't hitting their sales goals, it's automatically a lead problem. And sometimes it is a lead problem, right? Sometimes it's genuinely a lead problem. It could be a lead volume problem. It could be a lead quality problem,
Absolutely.
but there's always money being left on the table, right? And that's something we've talked about in some of our past conversations and inspired us to really jump on the podcast. So I was looking at a post you published the other day about how you break
Hmm.
down the funnel
Yeah,
and find those opportunity gaps. Can you kind of walk our listeners through what that
for
looks
sure.
like?
Yeah, so as you were saying, a bunch of money gets left on the table through things in their sales process. So the number one step that I believe everyone should be doing in order to find these things is you need to track the customer journey. Every single lead that comes into your company, you need to be tracking exactly what happens to that lead, no matter if they didn't book on the first call, no matter if they got an estimate done. You need to be tracking every single metric. And the reason why that's important is because if you're not tracking your metrics, how you're performing, how your comfort advisors are performing, how your CSRs are performing, all the handoffs in between, everything, you're never really going to know what to fix. So that's definitely the first step. The first step is from a new lead all the way to a job completed. You need to be tracking every single step in between that.
Awesome. Awesome. And can you kind of break down a little bit more how you do that?
Sure. So everyone should be using a CRM like House Call Pro, Jobber, or Service Titan, something like that. Everyone usually makes the jump to Service Titan because of the data tracking, but you can actually get a lot of really good data out of House Call Pro. And if that's what people are comfortable with, then I would definitely recommend staying with that. It's a much affordable option. We use High Level in order to track everything, but basically the way it works is I can just run you through sort of like the typical sales process. So for example, a new lead will come in, they'll either call in or they'll submit a form. Then the first point of contact is going to be your CSR. So your CSR is going to be in charge of sort of assigning that lead, scheduling, booking, and all this sort of stuff, handling like the initial objections. But the other really important thing that CSRs need to be able to do is distinguish between repeat work, new jobs, if you're coming back from a job that hasn't been completed. So these are all factors that affect the booking rate. And one of the things that I've noticed a lot is people track their booking rate, but it's severely inflated because a lot of their bookings come from repeat work. So of course, if you've worked with a customer before and you're booking them back in, it's 10 times easier to book someone like that compared to like a new lead coming from Google, right? Like
They already have the trust.
Exactly.
Right? And they're coming in with brand awareness, brand recognition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that massively inflates their booking percentages. So when you have a booking percentage of 70 to 90%, you're never going to think that's a problem, right?
Right.
So that's most important thing. First step there is to properly identify and sort of sort out which, like your booking rates for each kind of opportunity, whether it's a service call, it's an install opportunity, repeat work, all that sort of stuff. Because once you actually know your numbers for, this is what I'm booking for new install opportunities, this is what I'm booking for repeat work, you're going to have that data and you're going to say, oh, I'm lacking on the service side, for example. So now you have data that tells you need to be focusing on this part of your booking process.
Awesome. And the funnel keeps going, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's just the first step.
Right. So where do we go from there?
So after that, the next thing that would happen is, the CSR or dispatcher, for example, books in, let's say let's keep it on the sales side. So they're going to book in for a comfort advisor to come to that door. What typically happens is they just book in for a comfort advisor to show up on Monday at 9 a.m. But nothing actually happens in between that and that step. They just sort of book it. Hey, they say on the phone, hey, we'll have Jared come out Monday 9 a.m. And then Jared shows up 9 a.m. Monday, but nothing happens in between that. So a lot of the times what can happen is homeowner's going to forget, they're going to be busy, some emergency comes up, and they're going to have to either reschedule or cancel. But the other issue here is they're not tracking what's actually happening at this appointment. Like, did they even complete the appointment? Do they have to reschedule? Do they have to cancel? All the cancellation reasons, they don't, because if they're tracking, for example, oh, we're rescheduling a lot of appointments because homeowners keep forgetting, then there's obviously an issue there that they need to fix, because now they have that data like, hey, we're messing up a lot on this. But one of the biggest things that I've seen very few companies implement before the comfort advisor shows up to the door is sending that homeowner a pre-sales asset. And what I mean by this is, for us, what we've built out, before a comfort advisor even shows up to the door, we send homeowners a complete pre-sales asset. It includes a bunch of things. It goes through exactly what's going to happen in that appointment. It's just basically giving the homeowner a bunch of value. Like, hey, these are the common things. This is what we're going to look at. This is what we're going to be looking for our estimate. These are common mistakes homeowners make when they're comparing estimates. These are like all the things you should be looking. So we're giving homeowner a bunch of value. There's a video like, hey, this is what a comfort advisor is going to do. Bunch of information. Now, the point of this is we want to build as much value as possible before the comfort advisor even shows up to the door. It handles all the objections, so it makes the advisor's job 10 times easier. Whereas if you're showing up cold, like you don't have anything, the comfort advisor, you're basically relying on them to do the entire job. They have to sell hard. They have to push this. If you're giving a bunch of value, you're giving them all that value, you're setting yourself apart from the competition. Nobody else is really doing that.
Yeah, and you're pre-positioning them to buy, right?
Exactly.
your comfort advisors are salespeople, and it's like the old inside sales, outside sales model, right?
Exactly.
You need to set your in-home service techs, right, that are doing the sales up for success. And there's a lot of work that can be done via automation
Hmm.
with actual no additional human effort needed that can increase your close rate, right? And understanding and segmenting, is this a new customer versus an existing customer?
Hmm.
And it all comes back to the power of clean data,
Yeah.
right? That's the biggest gap
100%.
we see is these CRMs actually have all the data. It's really just understanding how to segment it
Yep.
and make it actionable.
Yep. How to use it. That's like a huge gap. Like a lot of people don't know how to actually use that data.
Yeah, and how to run the report or extract it. And I would say most of the the CRMs are lacking in the reporting department, meaning all the data's there and you can get it out, but how to visualize it and understand it, digest it, and create and understand where the gaps are. That's the biggest opportunity. And that's why people need to work with a company like yours. Am I
Hmm.
understanding that that's like your
Yes. Yep.
ultimate goal?
Yep. 100%. The biggest thing, what if you look at what we actually sell, it's data. We
Okay.
sell data.
Right. Well, you sell data analysis, right? They
Yeah.
own their data,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Do you guys do do you guys do call analysis? We're really big into listening to our clients' calls
Yeah, for sure.
and we find a ton of opportunities in there. Do you work that into your flow as well?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you guys listening for? And like, how do you handle that?
We basically we give each person that we're working with their CSRs. We have an SOP that they should be following, just a basic script of what they should be saying and all this sort of stuff. So basically, we have like a template of what we should be following. So we listen in on their calls, see how they're performing, see how they're handling objections and all this sort of stuff. And basically, it's just consulting. We say
Okay.
like, oh, we found this. Maybe try this angle or try this. We see your booking rate is lacking in this, so maybe try this.
Okay. That's awesome. And then what about from like the upsell, cross sell side?
Yeah, so that's like later on in the sales process. So
Yeah.
yeah, so the next
I like
thing,
to jump around a lot.
yeah,
You'll
yeah,
know.
no worries. So basically, like the next thing, going back to where we were before, when the comfort advisor actually gets in the door. So again, there are going to be a bunch of things that can happen. Maybe it's a reschedule, it's a cancel. But let's say, for example, they actually go through the appointment. They're walking through the options and everything. The homeowner is either going to accept the estimate or they won't accept the estimate at the end. So if they accept the estimate, obviously the next step is clear. You need to send back to the office, say, okay, we need to book in an install date. But the biggest issue is where they don't accept the estimate. I can't tell you how many companies like they see an open estimate, they do nothing with.
It's funny you mentioned that. So, I have a call coming up after this recording with a client who's not thrilled with his results, right? And he claims it's a lead problem. Lead volume is there, and our main KPIs that we track are unique leads, quotable leads, opportunity value, and sales value, right? And things look pretty healthy on our end, but there's a huge gap between quote value and sales value, right? It's
Right,
like
right.
10% of the quotes are being closed. So we looked in his House Call Pro and we found just in the last 6 weeks, $100,000 in
Yeah,
unfollowed up
that's ridiculous.
estimates,
I'm talking
right?
because
House Call Pro automatically marks them as expired after 30 days, right? But there's absolutely zero touch points after after the invoice was sent. No calls, no text messages, no emails, nothing to actually try and get their competitors, I guarantee you, are following up 3 times
yeah,
and it cost them 100 grand.
100%. And like one of the things is it's hard. Like I understand it. They're so busy. They have a bunch of people coming in left, right, center. They have to they have all these fires to extinguish in the office. Like their office is burnt out. A
Yeah.
lot of people coming in. They got to send out new estimates to keep on going and going and going. But they don't realize that you can make so much more money by just fixing what you currently have.
Well, and ramping up your lead volume is not going to fix the problem,
Never, never.
right?
Oh my
You need to
gosh.
fix your sales and close problem
Yeah.
before you ramp up your lead volume.
Yep.
Okay. That's the biggest gap there. We could get you 50 times more leads than you're currently getting, but you're not going to have the ROI that you need and that you deserve if the sales process isn't fixed. My favorite is when I'm listening to some of these calls and a lot of CSRs I'm super impressed with.
Mm-hmm.
They're very, very good. They follow a structured
Mm-hmm.
system, but you can very easily tell when there's no SOP in
Oh
place for
yeah.
how that call should go. I was listening to a call the other day You'll probably get a kick out of this. Somebody called and said, I need a mini split install. They were basically ready to buy on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the gentleman said, but I own a flower shop, right? We're really crazy busy through Mother's Day. So I'll call you back after Mother's Day and get it scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
The CSR, the easiest thing to do, schedule a service appointment for the week after Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Get them on the calendar.
No brainer.
If they need to reschedule or if they need to postpone or they need to cancel, that's fine. But at least they're in your system and there's a 50% chance they're going to keep that scheduled appointment and you just sold a mini split. And it was an LSA lead, so they paid $90 for it and it just went out the door. And I guarantee you this person's not going to call them back because they're not going to remember who they talked to. They're going to go back to Google and when they're ready and call the next person and that person's going to go out and sell the job.
Yeah, exactly. So what happened? They just never called back or?
They never called. Well, we flagged it. We sent it off to our client to say, hey, I think there's an opportunity you need to work on recovering. And we'll circle back with our client in a couple
So they
weeks.
didn't end up booking that person?
They didn't book it. No, she just said, okay, oh yeah, I forgot to give you the end of that story. She said, okay, great, thanks. We'll be here when you're ready.
That's so unfortunate.
It's just burning. She could have just lit $100 bill on fire.
Yeah, it's the
lit
same
her
thing.
boss's $100 bill on fire.
The easiest thing there would have just been to at least put them in the system. Even if you don't book this appointment, you can still put them in the system and say, hey, we have a new lead that is looking to get booked. Mark it to follow up with that person in 2-3 weeks. Hey, do you want an appointment?
Correct.
Simple stuff like that.
It is. And that's where the installation jobs, they're usually not urgent, right? Demand services, it's easy. You call, they have an immediate need. My stuff doesn't work. I need somebody out today. Great. You go out, you book it, you sell, job closed. And then you dump them in the follow-up process, right? Which
easy.
I want to dive into deeper with you too, about how you guys analyze that data.
For sure.
The installation, it might be a 3-week, 6-week sales cycle. And having both competencies within a home service trade company is unusual, right? So how do you recommend they bucket those separately and handle those processes?
Which one specific? You mean like comparing?
Like comparing an immediate need for a demand-based service call, right? Versus a longer term sale. Could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 5 weeks for an installation or a, duct work installation or upgrade, things like that.
Yeah, so I mean that usually varies between company to company. Like for example, some companies have like selling techs, for example. So if it's like a demand call, they'll send out like a tech, and the tech will do a diagnostic. They'll see like if it needs a replacement or if it needs a repair. If it needs a repair, then they can just do it whenever. But if they need a replacement, the selling tech can obviously sell a replacement right there. Or if they're not a selling tech, what they'll usually do is they'll say, okay, I'm going to hand it off. We'll have one of our advisors come out and walk you through replacement options. So there's a big difference there. We usually focus more. One of the biggest things that we focus on initially is with the comfort advisors. So that's when we have like a comfort advisor booked in for an appointment, and then we look at that sort of data. How are they handling those objections? Like what are their lost reasons and that sort of stuff. It's a lot easier to close a demand call because they need it, right? What are they going to do? But for as you were saying, with install opportunities, it's obviously a lot longer sales cycle. So it's important to be consistently touching, like following up in that gap throughout that 3-6 week process.
Right. And how do you usually recommend that they solve, like any solutions you can share, like things that you've seen have worked to improve that?
Yeah, so basically what happens, let's say a comfort advisor goes into a home, they walk through the options and everything, they present an estimate. At the end of that appointment, what they're going to get, or what they should be marking down at least somewhere, is a little summary of how that appointment went. Like, did you complete the appointment? Did you present? How many options did you present? What did you present? Did they accept? Did they put a deposit down? Did you schedule them in? Most of the time, the answer, or maybe not most of the time, depending on the company, the answer is going to be no. Like they didn't collect the deposit. They didn't accept the estimate. Now, here's where they should be tracking all of their lost reasons, because based on those lost reasons, they're not technically lost. They're still open. They just didn't accept it right away. They need to be tracking why they didn't accept the estimate. So for example, do they need to talk to the wife? Do they need to think about it? Are they looking just for prices? They want to compare quotes. There's a bunch of reasons why they don't want to accept an estimate on the spot. But it's important to know why, because now that we know why they're not accepting estimates, generally, like in an entire month, you can see all the reasons. You say, okay, we need to address this problem better. then you need to know, like, then you can start figuring out, is it going to be like, is your pricing an issue? Is it a sales presentation issue? Is it like the way you're following up? Like you're going to get all this information that's going to help you understand why you're actually not closing these deals.
And you could use that to roll back into the pre-sales conditioning
Mm-hmm.
messaging
Mm-hmm.
that goes out
Mm-hmm.
before the call.
Oh yeah. 100%. Exactly. You start seeing like, oh, we're getting a bunch of objections on here. You just put that in the pre-sale asset. Hey, we've had a bunch of homeowners ask us this question. This is how we address that.
Awesome. So now once we've addressed that, right, and our sales process is improving, right, we're watching
Mm-hmm.
those metrics and things are improving. What comes after that as far as we work through the buyer journey or
Yeah.
the
So
customer journey?
let's say the homeowner eventually accepts the estimate and they want to start moving forward with the installation process. The next step is going to be, you're going to be booking in a job with an actual installer. And again, there's a gap to be made there as well, because, for example, if they don't collect a deposit but they want to schedule an install date, they can still just cancel it or just forget about it, reschedule, and never actually get that job complete. Because for maybe some companies are booked weeks out, but they want an install sooner. So that's like another huge gap there, for example. So then you need to start tracking from the moment that estimate's accepted to the moment that job gets scheduled, and then on the install date. So it's the same process. Like the installer shows up to the door, like, hey, were you able to complete the install? No, we need to reschedule. And why? Why do we need to reschedule? Because they forgot. So then now you need to start sending homeowners things beforehand so they don't forget. It's simple, but nobody has that sort of data that tells them, like, this is why we're losing jobs.
I sent you a text message reminder to join the podcast recording.
Yeah.
Right? If I can do it.
Yeah. It's super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then basically, yeah, there's that. Then they just have to do the install. Another thing that we do, for example, before the install day, is we send the homeowner, like, hey, here's what a typical install day looks like. And we walk them through, hey, we're going to show up. We're going to make sure we do this. We're going to clean up the area, make sure like the driveway's clear so we can move our stuff. We're going to do this. We're going to clean up the area after, put everything back how it's supposed to be. And there you go. It just improves the customer experience a million times over.
Which leads into the last step after a completed booking, right?
Exactly.
I'm gonna tee that up for you.
Yeah. So then let's say they finish the install, everything's good. Now the install's done. What most people do is they just say adios, see you, and then they never ever talk to that customer again. But that's probably one of the biggest gaps where people leave money on the table by not taking advantage of their past customers. They already trust you. They already love what you did for them. There's so many things that we could get into for things you can do to start retaining and making more money off your current customers.
Of course. Well, and the main thing is asking for a review, right?
Yeah, that's the easiest thing.
That's the easiest thing. And I feel like most contractors, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, any trade, for the most part, is good about it, right? We just had we've had vendor, home service contractors out to the house, and I'm always being asked for a reason. I always give reviews because I know how important it is to them. But there's more. After the review is requested, you shouldn't just ask for the review once. Right? You really need to ask 3 or 4 times in a polite and professional way. So I would love to hear how you guys recommend that, and I want to share how we do it, and maybe I could learn something.
Yeah, for sure. There are 2 different ways you can sort of ask for reviews. You can either just like leave the job and then have an automatic text go out like, hey, we appreciate you letting us service your home. We want to serve more homeowners like you. It would help us a lot if you leave a review. You can do that, which is fine. It works. But the other really effective way that you can get reviews is by incentivizing your text to ask for reviews. And there's a really, really big misconception that a lot of companies have out there. You can't incentivize homeowners to give you a review. You can't say, if you leave us a review, we'll give you $50. We'll give you a free tune-up, or we'll give you this if you leave us a review. You can't do that. If you get caught doing that, Google, I'm sure, as you know, like Google's suspensions or they remove your reviews, they're not fun to deal with. Not at all. But what you can do is incentivize your technicians to get reviews. But they have to do it in a natural way. They can't obviously force them. They have to earn it. If they do a really good job, homeowner's going to want to leave a review. Give them a spiff, $25, $50 per review. And then what you can even do is have a leaderboard in your office. Hey, this technician got us 23 reviews this month. This technician got us 18, and then make a fun challenge out of it. Whoever at the end of the month, whichever technician gets us the most reviews gets a $500 bonus. You know?
Yeah. I found through our research, I've found the best time to ask for the review is as soon as the job is completed before the invoice is delivered,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's when customer satisfaction is the highest. And for on Amazon for $29, you can get those NFC review cards. They're super easy to program, and we've recommended to our clients, hey, I'm gonna run out to the truck to wrap up the job on my end. Would you mind leaving us a review? Just tap this card, right? They go out to the truck. Even if they don't have to wrap up the job in the truck, wait 5 minutes and then go back in, because it is super weird sometimes and awkward
Mm-hmm.
for a customer to take out their phone and type their review right in front of you.
Yeah.
But now you've handed it to them. It's going to be weird if they don't, right? So you put them in an uncomfortable but not uncomfortable situation. So that's been really successful. And then ultimately and I would love your feedback on this. So we do a 4 touch point sequence after the
Mm-hmm.
job is completed.
Mm-hmm.
So the first is a text message as soon as the job is completed with a similar message to what you said. Hey, thanks so much for trusting XYZ company. Your feedback is really valuable to us, and we'd love to work with more homeowners with you. Please leave us a review on Google. Here's the link, right? If they don't leave the review, we wait until 7:00 that same night and send them an email. Then we wait 2 days and send them a text message. And again, with just hey, quick reminder, I know you're busy. If you could really find 30 seconds to leave us a review, we'd really appreciate it. No response to that. 2 days later, a final email, and then they fall off, right? And beyond that, you're just harassing the customer for a review, and nobody really wants to do that.
Yeah. No, and that's a super smart thing that I think every company should be doing. I'm not sure if this is how you have it set up in high level, but really quick technical thing is like you can set it up as a trigger link.
Uh-huh.
If they click that trigger link, then they don't get the follow-ups. But if they don't click the trigger link, it's going to keep following up with them.
Interesting.
So
yeah, we should probably do it that way.
That's
an improvement we can make.
Really cool.
We do it through a form, right? So we
Mhm.
send them we collect their feedback on a form first that gets submitted. And then we ask them after they submit it, would you please share your feedback on Google? Right.
Yeah,
So that's how
you can do it that way too.
we're preventing the follow-up. But yours would skip a whole step in there and probably improve conversion rates.
Yeah, it's just a simple, like, if they click this link, then they're most likely going to leave a review. Then you can still check if they actually left a review.
Of course.
But yeah, that's just a cool little tech hack.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what else? The customer journey, right? I think we pretty much reached the end of the customer journey at this point, right?
There's
At least
more.
for the first job. Well, share what's more.
Sure. So a lot of other things too is that companies aren't doing is they don't, for example, they don't have a referral program. They don't have a way to properly convert these people into maintenance contracts. They don't have a proper way to sort of start running tune-up campaigns every spring, every fall to them that aren't on maintenance contracts. They don't have these ways to maybe upsell IAQ or like smart thermostats or things like that. So the really easy way to go about this is to just, once a job's complete, based on they didn't get a maintenance contract, they didn't sign this, they didn't get this, just send follow-ups. Hey, we're selling this. But you don't want to do it that way because you're hard selling at that point.
Yeah.
You're not providing any value. The correct way to go about any of this is what we found works best. And across like even that massive private equity company, 26 locations, what you want to do is provide value through storytelling, through education. Look at Jimmy. This is what he had before he had a fresh install, but we noticed like 2 years down the line, his bills were getting expensive, all this sort of stuff. So what we did is we did this to help him out. Next thing you know, his bills went down, his system was performing better, and all this sort of stuff. And the other caveat here is a lot of companies will start talking in technical language, but the most important thing, like as a homeowner, I don't understand what like my SEER rating is. I want to know what like the outcome is for me.
Yeah.
What am I going to feel in my home after this? Once you sell that feeling, you educate them, that's where you get the most conversions.
That's fantastic. So lead with value, right?
Yeah, 100%.
It's just like internet marketing. Like we tell our clients when we're trying to capture leads, we want to lead with value, right? It's of course, when somebody's searching for AC repair near me, we just want to lead with conversion options.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But to build ongoing relationships with your customers, it's all about providing free value that'll inspire them to think, maybe that would benefit me. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And then what about What about cross department, right? So a lot of companies offer, they're multi-trade, HVAC,
Hmm.
plumbing, electrical,
Hmm.
or obviously the big three combination. So let's say you go out for an AC repair or you do a new AC install. How have you found ways to strategically move that customer from an HVAC customer into plumbing or electrical?
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic as well, because I know a lot of people. I made a video on this recently. A lot of people, they jump into different divisions because they want more revenue. I'll
Hmm.
get into that, but basically the way it works is you let's say you put in a new AC for this customer. The year, maybe like a couple months or a year down the line, you just send out a simple like message or something like this, like, hey, like, I'm not sure if you knew, but we also do this. We offer like plumbing, for example, and we would love to come out, do a free, like, I don't know anything about plumbing, like a free water flush
Yeah.
inspection. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Flush your water heater.
yeah, exactly. Like a free inspection, safety
Hmm.
inspection, all this sort of stuff, and just to get people in the door that way. So it's super easy to just bounce them across different departments. Like, we mainly just focus on the HVAC side of things
Okay.
because there's so much money to be made with just focusing on one
Yeah.
trade.
Yeah.
If you have your HVAC trade mastered, you can easily get that up to 10, 20 million in revenue. You want to start hitting that 2 to 4 million EBITDA range.
Hmm.
And I think that's a healthy range where you can start expanding into other divisions, because you're going to have your systems down. You're going to know, like,
Hmm.
this works in HVAC, just simply translate it to plumbing, simply translate it to electrical. Whereas if you don't have anything down, if you start a new plumbing division, you won't have anything down for that either. You start an electrical division, you're going to have the same problems. So
So the strategy is, even before you start considering adding another trade, your systems need to be dialed in, right? Your
100%,
entire customer journey process.
100%.
So let's take this full circle now, right? Because I'm fascinated that you have an engineering background. How has your engineering education and background helped, right? With everything that we just described, understanding, because you've mentioned the word data over and over and over again.
Hmm.
There's a ton of data available and most people aren't using it. So let's talk about how your engineering degree has helped set you up for success here and develop the systems and analysis. And then let's talk about a couple low hanging fruits that, any business owner with a House Call Pro or Service Titan account, like, what could they do tomorrow that would
Oh
get them
yeah,
some value?
easy. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to like one of the things that I said before. It's that rigorous education. Like, you need to figure out, based on what you're given, how do you solve the problem. So I would say, like, the best value that I've got from like a rigorous academia program is understanding how to approach problems, how to think things through when it doesn't work how you expect on the first try. How do you see something wrong happened and to think of all the different possibilities, what could have went wrong. You need to be able to backtrack, think, oh, I remember I made this mistake here, this, it could be this. So the biggest thing is just going to be your thought process. How do you critically think? How do you approach problems based on the data that you have? And as we both know, it's a lot of these companies don't even have that data to begin with. So setting them up with that data, understanding their numbers, and then actually that's another part of our value. It's like, we can set up so these people have their numbers, but what do they know what to do with it? How do they know how to fix it? So that's, again, like something that we would come in and we'd be like, hey, your estimate conversion rate is not looking too strong. We see you're falling off here. Here are 3 options that you can do to fix this. What do you want to do? And we can implement.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, my son is actually in a high school,
Uh-huh.
trade school, right,
Uh-huh.
for engineering. It's called mechatronics. And I think what you're saying, and it makes perfect sense, is in engineering, the solution isn't always apparent. You have to check, you have to start at the beginning of the chain, right? And work your way down until you
Exactly.
find what's causing the problem. And that's, really what you guys have perfected at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It all comes down to the theory of constraint. You track everything. There's going to be one thing holding you back. Fix that one thing. Then you go through it again. Then you find the next thing that's holding you back. Fix that one thing. Go through it again. Next thing, fix that. You just fix one thing at a time. Everyone wants to fix everything all at the same time. Fix one thing, get it right, and then go to the next.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's great advice. So if I'm a House Call Pro user or Service Titan, right, those are probably the two biggest in HVAC. What are one or two low hanging fruits that, I could look at
For
tomorrow? What's
sure.
a report I could run? What's a data I could export and find an
For sure.
something actionable to help my close rates, my
Hmm.
conversion rates, my cross sell rates. What do you
Yeah.
recommend?
I'll give you a couple that anyone can pretty much do. It's super simple, but it takes work. One of the easiest things that anyone can do, and it depends on how they have their data segmented in their CRM. But assuming they've segmented their stuff properly, go into your CRM, find all the open estimates that you have over the past 3, 6, 12 months, depending how far you can go as far as years. I know people that they got an estimate 2 years ago and they still didn't replace their system somehow. Like some people are just like that, right? You go back, you export all of the open estimates that you have, and you send them simple texts and emails, again leading with value education and trying to get them back on the board and uncover that objection. It's another beauty, little side note, another beauty of like the art of follow-up is to uncover objections by providing value. You can't, like, people follow up and they just say, hey, I'm just checking in on the estimate, did you give it some thought? I don't care about that. Like, I've got stuff going on, like, no, I didn't think about it. Whereas if you're providing me value with that follow-up, like, hey, like, there's so many ways to provide value in follow-up. So it gets the person thinking. But yeah, so anyway, you're going to export all your open estimates. You need to figure out why they're open. So that's, again, tracking your lost reasons. And then just get in touch with them, tailor it to that lost reason, why it's open, and just put them through simple texts and emails. It's super easy to build out, especially in high level. You can do that in like 10 minutes. So that's one easy low-hanging fruit. Another one would be all of your super happy customers. You can go back to them and say like, hey, we're starting a referral program. Every single person that you refer to us for a new replacement, we're giving out $500 in cash as a referral fee, or we're getting courtside tickets to this game in a month or whatever. The main idea here is you want to take sort of what your customer acquisition cost is and translate that into value and give it to them, your customers, because you're already going to be paying $500 in ad spend and in close, like your sales guy commissions. You're already going to be paying that much anyway, so you might as well just give it to them, give it to your customers. Like, no, the other mistake people make is they want to give out little bonuses, like a little $25 gift card. I don't care about that, you know?
No one's gonna put any effort into a
Yeah,
$25 Starbucks
yeah,
gift card. I'm sorry.
yeah. You position it like, hey, how would you like to pay off that system that you just purchased with us? Hey, like every single person, $500. You refer us 10, 20 people, thousands of dollars back. You paid off your system already.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true. And you build an army of brand advocates,
100%.
right?
Another thing we're kind of testing is we're testing putting that referral program into the maintenance contract as well. So the maintenance contract is going to have all these benefits, discounts, priority scheduling. On top of that, every single person you refer us, $500. Pays off the
Ah,
maintenance contract. You have a customer for life and customers for life.
right. And that web just continues to
Oh yeah.
grow.
Oh yeah.
That's
100%.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
fantastic.
even one more. I'll give one more. You
Yeah,
would go
bonus.
into all your leads that you haven't even booked, leads that tech has never came out. For example, like the lady or the flower
The
shop
flower
example you
shop
gave me.
owner.
Yeah, people that have never booked an appointment. You go through that entire list. Hey, I remember earlier a couple weeks ago you were looking to book in an appointment. We have some available spots here, here, here. Provide value, like, hey, like whatever, and there you go.
Yeah,
Like, people want to just dump more money in, but it's
yeah.
it's only just going to amplify like a broken system.
That's it. Exactly. Until you've patched all the holes in your process, throwing more money is just wasting it.
Yeah, like a really interesting example my mentor gave me a couple years ago. It's like you have a bucket of water, it has a bunch of holes in it. If you keep filling up that bucket of water and water's going to keep flowing out, you're never going to fill to the top.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what we've been talking about
Yep.
for the last 40 minutes or so. So before we wrap up for today, is there anything else you think you want to share with the audience?
The only thing that I would urge is, before even thinking about your next shiny object, your next move, is please just try to look at what you have going on. Try to think of ways to get data out of what you currently have. And it's so much easier nowadays too, with all the technology, all AI, Claude, all this sort of, you can code something that'll get you the data you need, no problem. So it's all about having here's the other thing as well. A lot of people aren't humble enough to sort of look at what they have. They have this sort of ego that everything that they're doing is perfect. They know exactly what they need. But when it comes to talking about the data and looking at reflecting on what they actually have going on, they just run. So definitely the number one thing I'd recommend is get something that can tell you your numbers and carefully reflect that every single week. And if you have everything tracked properly, you'll know exactly what you need to fix.
100%. At Elevated, we strive to grow 1% every day. We don't think we know everything, whether it's learning a new skill, staying on top of a new algorithm update, trying to find a way to better support our clients 1% every day. The same thing applies. You're never going to have a perfect business. You're never going to have a perfect sales process. It needs to be constantly evolving. So get out of your own way, right? Start looking for opportunities to learn and to improve.
Yeah. And by all means, like, I'm not saying I know everything either. I'm constantly learning new stuff every single day. But it's I would say one thing, not to like toot my own horn, but one thing that I kind of do that helps me keep on learning, and even applied in academia, I always think that I'm not smart. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I try to keep my mind as open as possible and learn from as much people that I can. I know there are people ahead of me, people below me. Doesn't matter. I can learn something from the person below me too. I can learn a million things from the people above me. It's keeping that open mind and not thinking you're the best, you're the smartest, you know everything. I know for sure I am not the smartest person. I bring myself down to a level, I'm below everyone. I want to learn, I'm hungry. And I think that's one of the biggest traits that a lot of people can apply. And if they had that sort of mindset, like I know nothing, they would have that hunger, that drive to learn exponentially a lot more. So I think that's a super interesting thought process.
That's a great mentality to have. It really is. So Michael, if somebody wanted to work with you guys, contact you, what would they expect? What does your process look like? Do you do an initial assessment or an audit? And then how would people get in touch with you?
Yeah, for sure. One of the easiest ways you can get in touch with me, just DM me on Facebook. I'm super active. Or you can just hit up my website. I have YouTube videos going on, links going to like my website and all this stuff. You can just book in a call, get in touch with me there.
I'll put all that in the show notes.
Easiest way is just shoot me a DM. We can set up first I'll just like try to give you a quick call, understand like what your goals are, what you want to do next, like what's your vision, all sort of stuff, see if it even makes sense to help you out. But then the next thing that we would do is we would hop on a call where we completely break down your sales operation. And we would show you exactly where you're losing money. Like, hey, like you might be losing money in this step, this step, this step. This is what I would do here, here, here. This is how much money you're losing based on your new leads, your average ticket, and how much you close. Like this is the gap. And in the end, if you want it fixed, you can work with us, or you can find out a way to do it yourself.
That's awesome. So you're delivering value either way. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Elevated Trade Secrets Podcast. We will see you on the next one.
Peace.